if there's anything that you take from this video is if you want to breastfeed and you know that that's what you really want to do, don't quit on a bad day. On today's video, I finally decided to film my breastfeeding journey. If you guys are new here, I am a first-time mom to my 5-month-old baby boy Lucas. I started this channel with like makeup related videos, but I think it's slowly evolving into more of a motherhood lifestyle videos. So if you guys are into that, please consider subscribing. Or if you guys have oily skin and like foundation reviews, then also consider subscribing because I feel like I have a little good amount of mix of both. Today's video is strictly gonna be breastfeeding, my journey, how it's been. I think I said 5 months old. He's 4 months old. I don't know why I said 5. It's been 4 months since I started breastfeeding, and I just want to sit down and talk to you guys about how it's been, especially because one of my friends just gave birth, and then one of them is gonna give birth in October, and I want them to see this because I feel like that support and that like mental encouragement is needed those first few months. I'm also going to share with you guys products, apps, groups on Facebook, groups on Instagram, and websites that helped me along my journey. So stick around for that at the end. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started with this video. If you guys see me look down at all, because I have my notes on my iPad, I don't want to miss a thing. So I'm just going to look down every so often and make sure that I'm covering every little detail. I'm going to start off by saying that my breastfeeding journey was not easy at all. I know there are many who are lucky enough to have their baby latch on and everything is kind of smooth sailing, or at least it seems like that on social media sometimes. A little bit about my birth story. I ended up having a C-section after having reached 10 centimeters. I did it without an epidural, but after pushing for 4 hours, it just wasn't working out. So I ended up getting a C-section. If you guys want to see that, I'll link it up above. Because of having a C-section, I feel like the nurses, the doctors, everybody was recommending different positions so that I avoid having my baby on my incision. And granted, it was really painful to breastfeed as it was because I wasn't really allowed to move that much at the hospital. I remember Sergio would grab Lucas and hand him over to me, and then that's how I would breastfeed. I was comfortable with myself and Sergio in the room, but the second nurses, doctors, lactation consultants came in, I would immediately get really nervous because I feel like they were judging me or maybe because I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know. I just felt like being judged. I'm sure it wasn't the case, but that's just how I mentally sometimes process things. They taught me 3 positions that I can try to avoid having him on me, like on my incision. The first one was a football hold where you actually have your baby. I keep yawning. I already had 2 cups of coffee. I don't know why. But the first position, you hold him and his whole body is facing this way. It's called the football hold. So his body is facing like away from you and his head is towards your breast. You do have to have some pillows on you, under him, so that he's raised up to reach your breast. That one was a really comfortable position for me. And then the second one, which was it? It was a side lying position where I would actually lay completely on my bed and then he would feed off of that. Till this day, sometimes I do that, especially like on weekend mornings where I just still don't want to get up from bed. I use that position and he actually enjoys that one. And then the last one was the baby on top. So I would lay on the hospital bed and then put him on top of me. And he would actually look for the breast and start feeding that way. That one was a little bit harder. I feel like he just didn't like it. I don't think he has ever liked being on his stomach because I feel like at that time he had a lot of like acid reflux or like stomach issues where he would spit up a lot. Overall though, like at the hospital, I feel like he had a hard time latching on. Some feedings he would, in my opinion, latch, and then some just were a complete mess. He was obviously trying to learn. He's new at everything. I'm new at everything. I was trying to find the right position. Sometimes when he would latch, I would be really uncomfortable, but I would try not to move because he finally latched on. At one point, one of the nurses thought that maybe my nipple was the problem. It wasn't protruding enough for him to be sucking on it, so she actually gave me a nipple shield, which ended up not working. I never used it till this day, and it wasn't really inverted. It just wasn't protruding enough, like the breast on the right side. But obviously you want him to eat from both, so we were really trying for my left nipple to like stick out as much. Sorry, this is like TMI. It was very stressful at the hospital, and like I said, I had nurses' opinions, doctors' opinions, suggestions, lactation consultants, everybody's input. I got a good amount of info from everybody, but it was just really overwhelming because everybody wanted you to succeed like at breastfeeding, and the whole time my baby's over here like not latching 100%. And then on top of that, he ended up getting a slight bit of bilirubin, and then he was losing a lot of weight. So that was already like giving me even more anxiety, because I'm like, I'm not being able to feed this baby and he's losing weight. He has bilirubin. It was not a good mix. So the lactation consultant ended up suggesting, what do you call it, hand expressing milk out of the breast and then feeding him by hand. So we ended up doing that several times, and that's how we were getting the colostrum to him. I remember when we were coming home, in one of the videos, he has like, his lips are like almost solid dry, because we just kept feeding him colostrum with a syringe, and that was what he was getting at the hospital. Obviously your milk doesn't come in until after, so what you're trying to feed your baby is the colostrum, which is super beneficial, and that's the way we were trying to feed him, is by hand expressing. Those times that he would latch on, I'm like, why can't you just do this all the time? And like I mentioned, I had just gotten a C-section, so I even thought, like, is it because I had a C-section that he's not latching on? So I was even blaming myself at one point. I'm like, why couldn't I just give birth vaginally? But that was completely out of my control. If you guys watched the video, then you guys know that that was completely out of my control. Having C-section was definitely not an option for me, but at the end of the day, it just had to be done. Now, fast forwarding to actually coming home, I feel like once we got home, both him and I finally got to relax. I was in my own home, on my couch, on my bed, using my own pillows, because granted, I didn't take any breastfeeding pillows or any type of pillows to the hospital. I was strictly using their super thin pillows. I think at one point I had like 6 pillows on me, and they were so thin. And even then, I feel like he was like drooping off, you know, like he was falling off of them. But once we got home, I started using my breastfeeding pillow, which at the end I'll tell you guys everything that I used that helped. I did a lot of football hold with the pillow, but the pillow was high enough so that even if I did like the cradle hold position, it wasn't really on my incision, because the pillow was above and just high enough for him to feed off my breast. We were still expressing colostrum to be able to feed him if he didn't latch on. I remember the lactation consultant did give us a handheld pump. That also helped as well. Not one time did I open up my like humongous breastfeeding, like, what do you call it, pumps, the electric pumps. I haven't used that till this day. I'll tell you guys why later, but that handheld pump did really work and was very helpful for us, because sometimes the hand expressing hurt more than the handheld pump. My milk ended up coming in, I think we got home Friday, and my milk came in like Saturday evening. And the reason why I know is because I was hand pumping, and I collected like 4 ounces of milk, and me and Sergio were like, holy crap, I think my milk came in. And obviously it was my milk, because it was a little bit more watery than colostrum, because colostrum tends to be like a lot more thicker than milk. When my milk finally came in, we were so like relieved, because you still run the risk of not even having milk. For some reason, sometimes that happens. It's very rare, but when you're a first time mom, you are pretty paranoid about that stuff. So when the milk came in, I felt like super amazing. When the milk finally came in, I noticed that he latched on better for some reason. I think because just the milk just kept flowing into his mouth, so he kept sucking and sucking. Whereas colostrum, I feel like maybe there wasn't enough, so he would stop, and maybe that's why he would unlatch. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I noticed when my milk came in. The issue was that once the milk came in, that's when I noticed engorgement. And if you guys have had engorgement, then you know how painful it is. Oh my God, my breasts were so swollen, rock hard, and hot, like warm to the touch. It actually hurt to shower sometimes, and it was just really painful. That was another thing. The nipples were so swollen from him sucking. I'm not used to that, so my nipples were really sore. And when the engorgement happened, it was just like an unbearable pain that I remember calling the hospital to speak with the lactation consultant, and she's like, yep, it sounds like you have engorgement. And she said that typically it goes away like in a few days, but I felt like I had it for at least a week or a week and a half. Some days were better than others, and then like all of a sudden it just would happen again. But I think I would say like about a week and a half where it finally leveled off, and then my body started saying, okay, this is how much the baby needs, how much he's drinking, so this is how much milk we're gonna produce. But I remember the lactation consultant telling me, don't take hot showers because the hotness swells the breasts more. Cold compresses help a lot. I was just using like one of those things that you could stick in the freezer. It has like fabric, so it's a lot easier than just like plasticky stuff. She also suggested cabbage leaves. She's like, it's funny, but it actually works. I never tried it, but the cold compresses actually really helped. And she did say that if you go into the shower, do more hand expressing to get some of the milk out instead of hand pumping, because hand pumping can actually make the milk come even more, because your body is getting signals that the milk is being released, so it has to make more. Versus just hand expressing lightly just to relieve some pressure is actually what really helped. Like I said, I think it leveled out within like a week and a half, and then I was okay. Right now, I do get engorged kind of like overnight. If he does sleep more than usual, then my breasts fill up with milk, and then in the morning, they're just like either leaking or they're ready to be, you know, feeding. Thankfully, I've been an overproducer. I feel like my body makes more milk than needed. I actually have a freezer full of milk that I don't need because I'm not working, but every so often I'll get some bottles here and there just to have Sergio feed him, or I'll feed him a bottle just so that he gets used to it. And he actually takes both bottle and breast fine. Like, he's fully established his breastfeeding that I don't really mind giving him a bottle every so often. The midwives had mentioned that there was a possibility of getting baby blues, and I didn't get postpartum depression. I am so thankful for that. I was actually really worried that I might, because I'm such an anxious person as it is, but it didn't really hit me for more than 2 or 3 days. But within that time frame when I got the baby blues, I feel like it was mainly because of breastfeeding. And I was just finding myself getting really upset sometimes, or sad. I would cry while he was feeding, thinking, I don't want to do this for 6 months. I don't want to do this for a year. I remember telling Sergio, we would have conversations of maybe doing it for 3 months and then stopping and doing formula. I remember one day I told him, I'm like, you know what? I quit. I'm gonna just bottle feed him. I'm gonna pump the milk out and bottle feed him, because I hate sitting there trying to find a position that he's comfortable with. And I remember I tried it one day, and after I fed him, I'm like, now I have to pump. Hell no. No offense to whoever does it. It's a job on its own, breastfeeding and then pumping. I give you guys a lot of credit for doing that, but it was just not happening. Like, if I could just breastfeed him, why am I gonna have to do the extra mile that isn't really needed, right? So after I quit one day, I said, no, I'm gonna breastfeed him. And I think that's all I needed to just kind of like shake my head out of it. And ever since then, I feel like every day just got easier and easier. And 4 months later, here I am, and I actually look forward to breastfeeding him. Usually when I breastfeed him, it's like a time where I finally get to sit down and relax. He'll feed for 15-20 minutes, and then I'm on my phone while he does it. So it's actually really relaxing. And right now, I can do it without my breast pillow. I can do it without any pillows. I just sit down, hold him, and it's almost like those pictures you see on social media, which is another thing. I used to see those pictures and think, why can't I just hold my baby like that and him just connect to me and feed? And I remember my OB telling me, she said, everybody struggles. Nobody has it easy. It's one thing or another. We're all new at this if it's your first time, right? So she told me, usually those people you see on social media, they're cheating because they're using 3-month-old babies, 4-month-old babies, and those babies are well established in breastfeeding. It's very rare that you see a newborn commercial breastfeeding. It doesn't happen. It's very rare. So that gave me a lot of hope to know that someday I'll get to that, and that's where I am right now. Like, I actually hold my baby. I don't even have to guide him. I don't have to hold my breast for him. He just knows what to do, and I know what to do, how to sit, how to, you know, hold him. So it's definitely gotten a lot easier. I have no complaints. But yeah, that is pretty much my journey. It started really rough. I wanted to quit. My baby blues, I think, was mainly because of breastfeeding, but it's definitely gotten better, and I'm glad I didn't quit. And another thing that helped me, there was a picture on Instagram that I saw. I'll post it right here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And there's a woman that looked like she had a rough time breastfeeding, and it said, don't quit on a bad day. So if you guys are thinking of quitting, just don't quit on a bad day, because there are far more better days than there are bad days. And in the end, it's really worth it if you have the option to breastfeed, because I know not everybody does, but if you do have the option to breastfeed, don't quit on a bad day and just keep trying, because it's really, really worth it. And the bond that you and your son or daughter will have it's awesome. I love it. I love it now. And when I first started, I could have never imagined myself saying I love breastfeeding, but I love it now. But I definitely paid my dues in the beginning. So yeah, having said that, I wanted to share with you guys all the products that helped me along the way, because I feel like I couldn't have really done it without some of these products. First off was my Breast Friend pillow. I'm just gonna put a picture of it right here. I did try the Boppy pillow as well, and I ended up returning it because it just wasn't working as good. The Breast Friend pillow, it attaches to your waist and you can move it up or down and tighten it wherever you need it. It has pockets, you can put your phone there or water something, but it has a big platform for your baby to lay on. I think it was one of the best pillows that I had. It's like $45 or $50, but it's so worth the money, in my opinion. Another one was the hand pump that I got at the hospital, but you could also get it like at Amazon, Target, I know sells it. It's by the brand Mazzella. I'll link it down below, to sometimes relieve a little bit of the engorgement. When I bottle feed them, then I'll use the hand pump to get the milk out, to make sure that I still get that milk coming in, but I never use the electric pump. It's just not, I just don't need it. The handheld pump is working just fine and it gets enough milk out. Another thing that I use that has actually really, really helped and is the culprit for my freezer full of milk is the Haka. Now, I didn't know anything about the Haka. I didn't even put it in my registry because I didn't know about it. But I have talked about it on my channel a few times before. And if you guys are first-time moms, I think it's definitely something you should add to your registry if you are planning to breastfeed. When I feed Lucas on one breast, I always use a Haka on the other one. And I feel like it almost always collects 1 to 2 ounces of milk every feeding, which means by the end of the day, you have several ounces of milk. And that's how I've been building up my freezer stash. If I for some reason have to go back to work, I feel confident enough to go back to work with the milk that I have in the freezer. Another use that I have for the Haka, for example, this morning he slept finally 7 hours straight and my breasts were like super engorged, rock hard. They were already leaking through my bra, and I ended up putting the Hakas on. I have 2. I feel like 2 is all you need. I put both on this morning and the milk just kept coming in, and I store the milk away. I also talked about the ice packs that I used when I had engorgement, and it's like a very like fabric-y ice pack. I think it has rice inside, so you could either heat it up or you can freeze it. I think if you were to heat it up, it would be for those that have like clogged milk ducts, which I've never had. But what I used it for was to use it cold to reduce some swelling when the engorgement happened. So I'm gonna link something similar down in the description box, because the one that I have was gifted to me by a friend. I also talked about how my nipples were super sore and I ended up using nipple cream. I would put nipple cream in the shower because literally my nipples would burn when the water would hit them. That's how bad it is. Your nipples are just not used to this feeding thing, so they hurt. And so the one that helped me in the shower was the Lancino cream, because that one is really, really thick, but I don't like that one for other times. I just like that one for when I'm about to jump in the shower. Nipple cream that I did enjoy was the Bamboobies, I think it's called, and then the Earth Mama Organics, I think it's called. The Earth Mama, I just started using it and it is probably my favorite one, and the only reason is because it smells like chocolate. It has like cocoa extract in it. For some reason it just smells so good. I can't even imagine. Like, I wonder if Lucas tastes the chocolate in it. I don't know. But I put it on and it's very moisturizing. It soothes the nipples. They don't hurt as much now as they did in the past, but it's definitely really good to use either way. I did talk about nipple shields. I did use a few, but like I said, I never ended up continuing to use them. I just didn't feel like they were needed, in my opinion. But I will link some options for you guys to check them out if you guys feel like you might need them. The one app that I feel that has really helped me to keep track of the feedings, to keep track of how much she ate, because that was one of my concerns too. Like, how do you know how much your baby is eating if you don't see the milk coming out? So usually when you breastfeed a baby, it's by like minutes of feeding. And so the baby tracker app is the app that I really found helpful, and both Sergio and I have it. So when I would breastfeed, sometimes he would start a timer for me, and then it reminds you like, okay, you fed from the left breast last time, so now feed from the right, and it kind of just reminds you back and forth. If you pump, it has a pumping option to like add your details there. If you hand express, if you feed them some vitamins, stuff like that. Like, that app was really helpful just to keep a track of everything, his diapers, everything. We actually use that app to check on his diapers, like wet diapers, dry diapers, mixed dirty diapers, when we went to our pediatrician's office, because it's something that they ask you, like how many wet diapers does the baby have. So it's nice to keep a track of everything on that app. And that was another thing. When we finally got to the pediatrician's office, he actually gained his weight back a lot more than he lost. So it was very reassuring to see that the breastfeeding, even though I couldn't see the milk being consumed, the weight said it all. Like, my pediatrician said that the breastfeeding was definitely going well because he was gaining the appropriate weight. So that was really, really reassuring for me. And every time we go, it's just reassuring to see that he just weighs more and more and more. And my chunky baby is well fed, for sure. The website that is definitely very, very helpful till this day is kellymom.com, I think. I'm gonna double check, but I think it's kellymom.com. This website has anything from engorgement, from lack of milk supply, from over milk supply, from breastfeeding positions, what to eat, what not to eat, like anything that you might have a question in regards to, you might find the answer in Kelly Mom. So check that website out. Another thing that is similar to the website, but it's more of a book, is the Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. I love this book. I know I have my bookmark here, but honestly, whatever stage you are in breastfeeding, whatever month your baby is, you can honestly just use this book as a reference. Go to the back, look up whatever you're trying to find in the index, and then it'll take you to the information that you need. This book is amazing. It has a lot of good information, and it's written by the La Leche League, which they have a lot of groups that you can find depending on your neighborhood. And that's another thing that I wanted to share with you guys is the Leche League around my neighborhood. They actually meet every Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays a month. And I remember joining one of the meetings, and they were so helpful. Like, they helped me when it came to engorgement. They helped me just some concerns that I had. And the leaders are amazing. It's intimidating because, I don't know, I just don't like socializing, but I knew I needed it. One of my friends was telling me to go on it, and I told her at first, I don't need that help, but it was super helpful. So if you could find La Leche League in your area, it is definitely helpful. And the leaders will give you their email or phone number, so if you have any concerns, it's kind of like having a lactation consultant, because they know a lot about breastfeeding. Another page, it's like an Instagram account. It's the Milky Mama, or Milky Mama on Instagram. She's a lactation consultant, but also has products for people that have milk supply issues, and it's just like food that kind of boosts the milk supply. But I love that she has people will ask her questions and she'll answer them, and it's a lot of the questions that I had as a first-time mom. I encourage you guys to check her out. It's Milky Mama. And yeah, I think that is it for everything else that I wanted to share with you guys. If there's anything that you take from this video, is if you want to breastfeed and you know that that's what you really want to do, don't quit on a bad day, because there are better days ahead of you. Start is just a little rough, but there are far more better days than there are bad days. So I'll leave you guys with that. That is it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.